Hey, 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 good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Building Power. Y'all know we always talking about some good stuff, always trying to bring resources and tools to the community. But first thing is first, make sure if you're watching this video, like the video. That helps with the algorithms, but also share it. We know that we love education. HBCUs has been in the news recently. Shout out to the Mecca. Howard University has some star power coming their way, and so we'll get into some of that as well. So make sure you like the video, make sure you share this video, and yeah, let's just hop right into the discussion. So this show for me is really special. I have been doing Building Power now for a little over a year. We started doing a whole bunch of digital stuff during COVID last year in 2020 instead of in-person things, and it has really been a success thus far. But this one is special because I have a good friend of mine. She's like a sister to me. It's funny because I feel like we literally are sisters because we fight like real sisters, right? And then we make up and then everything is cool. And I mean, we done had some knockdown drag outs with different opinions before, you know what I mean?
We have. We don't always agree, but we're not supposed to. Iron sharpens iron. That's what makes it beautiful, because I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, and we don't always agree, but that's okay.
Exactly. And I think at the top of it, we have a mutual respect for each other. And I think that's what's so important. So without further ado, this is my sister friend, Angela Davis, straight out of Dayton, Ohio.
Yes.
Welcome,
Hello. Hello, and thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about everything that you're doing. This is a wonderful platform that you have, and I'm just excited to be here. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have this conversation around HBCUs without you, because I know for years how passionate you have been as an HBCU alumnus. Shout out to Central State University.
Yes, represent. Yes.
That's right. Wilberforce, Ohio. It's funny because when I hear conversations about HBCUs, we never hear about the smaller ones, right? The ones that are really, I mean, not all of them are important, but I never hear about the ones in Ohio. Oftentimes I have to remind people, like, there are 2 HBCUs in Ohio. Like, we usually hear about the Howards, the Spelmans, Morehouse, you know, sort of the flagship of the HBCU sphere. But anyway, tell us why you chose an HBCU.
So I'm going to answer that question, but I do want to shout out, you talked about Ohio, where Ohio doesn't get the props that we deserve. But the fact that Wilberforce University in Wilberforce, Ohio is the first, the finest, the oldest, for us, by us, institution of higher learning, we've got to continue to put Wilberforce on the map. You know, yeah, we had the Howards, but without Wilberforce, there is no Howard. Without Wilberforce, there is no Spelman. There is no FAMU. So we want to shout out to the mother of them all, which is Wilberforce University, the first university founded for Black people, by Black people, right here in Ohio. So I want to put that out there and make sure that people recognize, just because, you know, Wilberforce and Central State may not be large, but we are mighty, we are powerful, and we are educating African Americans who are doing great things in this world, not just in this country, but in this world. But I chose Central State University. Actually, you know, to be honest, I kind of got caught up in what everybody else gets caught up in. There are HBCUs that have high profiles. So originally I wanted to go to another HBCU in the South. I'm not even going to name it. But I thought I wanted to go to another HBCU. But honestly, I had family living in the city, so it was going to be a natural fit for me. And actually, when I went to Central State as a visit, a community member, Miss Williamson Community Center took us, a bunch of kids on the bus, down to visit Central State. And for me, honestly, it was a free day out of school. Like, oh, they're going to a tour I'm going to. It's a free day out of school. But shout out to Miss Williamson and all those community members who think it not robbery to expose young people to HBCUs. It's so important. Without her, planning that trip for us, I wouldn't be where I am today. But she planned a trip. I got on the bus like I'm going. And I promise you, I don't remember what I had to eat yesterday. I don't. But I remember all those years ago stepping off that van in front of the Ward Center at Central State University. And it felt like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I remember that moment, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. It was like the ancestors was whispering in my ear, like, come enjoy what we have built for you. And it was no turning back. I ended up, I was a 4.0 student out of high school. I was class valedictorian, a predominantly white high school. And I used to get tired of telling this story, but then I'm always reminded that I have to tell this story because it's not to brag on me at all. But there are Black girls just like me who come out of these predominantly white high schools. It was a very rural area, who feel like we're not Black enough to be at an HBCU. I'm just being honest. I remember thinking like, I'm not Black enough to go there. How am I going to fit in? Like Lima, Ohio, we didn't even have a Black radio station. How am I going to fit in the HBCU? Getting there, I immediately knew that I was going to fit in. There is such a beautiful diversity in the African-American experience, and you capture that on an HBCU campus. Some of us are from rural areas. Some of us are from inner cities. Some of us are from the suburbs, and we all come together and create an HBCU family with our different shades of Black, different shades of brown, and we all fit in.
Woo, that just gave me chills. And I actually learned something about you. I knew you were from Lima, and I know you still have a lot of family there because I know you visit a lot. And that I feel like your story mirrors so many others. And to that point, I would love for you to kind of lean in a little bit more about that HBCU experience. And you feel the moment you felt like you knew you fit in, right? And if you don't mind, kind of contrast that experience of being in a predominantly white school and then going to an HBCU, right?
Right. So honestly, like from 3rd grade through 12th grade, I went to a predominantly white school in a rural area. So it is not even the suburbs. This is rural, like literally look out the window and there's cows across the street. No exaggeration. So a rural white environment is different than the suburban white environment.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're there, and I had not ever seen a Black adult in my building from 3rd grade through 12th grade. Correction. The only Black adult I ever saw in the building from 3rd grade through 12th grade was a janitor.
I knew you was going to say janitor.
And it's the truth. The only Black adult in the building. So what it feels like to be a Black girl in a place like that, I mean, to be a smart Black girl in a place like that, it was very difficult. Never forget, my 8th grade social studies teacher said that Black people he was teaching, on the Civil War or whatever. And he said that Black students, that slaves were better off staying slaves than running away, because at least as slaves, they had food to eat and they had shelter, so they shouldn't run away.
Wow.
I remember raising my hand because even though I'm from this, small white town, I had people from the community and community centers that were teaching us Black history, that were teaching us about ourselves. I remember raising my hand and almost getting kicked out of class because I refused to let him sit there and tell us that Black people were better off, being slaves than running away because they didn't have no
Lord, in this social media world now, these kids got phones. That teacher would have been drugged on social media.
He would have been drugged. But the sad part about it is he wasn't drugged. And 2 years later, my brother had the same social studies teacher. He was telling them the same thing. The same thing. Teaching the same thing. So to come from that environment where Black people are looked down upon, where we're not celebrated at all, to come from that and then to go to Central State and to just feel like I fit in, I am celebrated. All my sassy Black girlness that was looked down upon and where I was in high school because I was too mouthy, to this, to that, it was funneled and it was channeled into something powerful and amazing. They were no longer trying to dim my light like it was happening in my high school, but it was celebrated like, wait a minute, being a sassy, mouthy, smart, brainiac, little know-it-all Black woman, there's a place for me here, because there was no place for me. My light was always being dim. But to be able to to be at Central State, where it's celebrated, to go from having a social studies teacher that said Black people were better off as slaves, to walk in and during freshman orientation, every single student was handed a copy of Before the Mayflower. That was a part of your freshman orientation.
Bennett. Yeah.
Yes, that was a part of our freshman orientation packet. Like you got that when you walked onto that campus. So to go from Black people,
I never had that experience. I went to a PWI.
I promise you, Zakia, the world would not be ready for you if you had went to an HBCU. I promise. Like, I'm so serious. Like the world, you think you're fabulous and amazing and empowered now. The world would not be ready for you if you had professors like I had. Dr. Joseph Lewis, he was our history professor. When I tell you this man had traveled the world, had been around the world, I mean, he was over the Upper Bound program, Olo Kiki Julo, to all the Upper Bound folks out there. People like him empowered me. As a freshman at Central State, Black history was a required course. Yes. Every single freshman had to take it. And there were just a couple of professors who taught it. So it wasn't just like some willy-nilly adjunct that came on and looked at a book and said, here's your assignment. These were professors who were tenured, who were passionate, and who knew those books, and who instilled so much inside of us that you came out of that classroom like all those years of being in that building with just a Black janitor, it just peeled off instantly. Like, okay, that's gone. So it was so exciting, and just to be empowered. And even like, I told the story on my social media one time, like there would have never been a Black homecoming queen at my school. Like if you weren't blonde hair, blue eyed, or if you were Black, you had to be bubbly, and you had to really try to fit in, and you had to like lower yourself, to water yourself down for people to really like you. But my freshman year, on my birthday, I was in the homecoming parade as one of the people as one of the campus queens. And that meant something to me. It meant something for my little brother who was still at that high school. And he was like, man, and she was like, you ain't never getting nothing like this in high school. You come here and your first quarter in school, like you get this. And even though like queen thing wasn't my thing, and I was more into student government as time went on, but just to feel like, wow, you don't have to look a certain way to be a queen. Right. You can be sassy and be a queen. You can be smart and be the queen. And it was just such an amazing and empowering experience for me that now I give back because I owe so much.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. Yes. Let's talk about all the amazing work. So you do a lot of community work, and I have so much adoration for the work that you do. I know you do a lot through your church, Omega. Mm-hmm. You put on the Black History program, which is literally top notch. Like you're like, you need an Emmy award, because like I'm serious. Like they are very much top notch. So I know you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and your heart into putting on that play. And I've just been just watching you from afar for a while, just really in awe of that. But this past weekend, you did something really fun, and you gave back to the students in the community. Tell us about what you did. I think we have some pictures we can show too.
We do have pictures. Yeah. So this past weekend, we had our first HBCU send-off here in Dayton, where all the students in the Dayton area, no matter which HBCU, 107 HBCU that they went to in the country, we brought them all together. We gave away 20 laptops. We gave away book scholarships. Every underclassman left with a bucket of dormitory essentials. So we were collecting donations for 2 months. Now, this is an event they've been having in Cleveland for 8 years. But we wanted to put our own little spin on it in Dayton, because you know how we do. And in Cleveland, they do it as a cookout. But we wanted to do it as a food truck rally. So we were really nervous about the weather, because storms were being called. So we moved the event inside, but the weather still never happened. But we moved the event inside. We had the HBCU send off, celebrating all of our students. We had 100 students registered from the Dayton area who were headed off to our country's HBCUs. About 20 different HBCUs these students were headed off to. So we had alumni from all over the city coming together to network, to support. We know that we are now getting our students to our HBCUs. It's important to get them through. And to do that, we know that they need alumni support. So parent support is important, but not all students have parent support. Not all of their parents have had a college experience and really can help them to navigate through that college experience. So we know that it's important for alumni to get involved and support those students and be that network and that buffer. Because students, I mean, it's hard. You want to give up. You might call home and say, Mom, me and my roommate not getting along, this and that and this. And your mama might be like, girl, come home. But then an alum is going to tell you something different. An alum is going to tell you to stick through it, stick to it, and you can do it because I did. So it's important for alumni to be that village for our students. And when I say the alumni showed up and showed out, they're already talking about what they're going to do next year for the students. The alumni were literally bragging about what they were giving to the students. So you had Kentucky State saying, well, we giving the students this, and Central State saying, well, we giving the students this. So it was a competition on how much they could give.
I love us so much.
Yes.
Look at this.
See, these are the baskets. So all the underclassmen walked out of there with baskets.
I know the parents were grateful.
Parents were so grateful. What I love about this picture is because the one girl has the North Carolina A&T shirt. Yes. The other girl has on the Tennessee State.
He and then behind him
yeah. So you see, like, it was a diverse group of HBCU alumni and students that were there all coming together. So the parents were ecstatic. There was a young boy there, and I won't tell too much of his story, but he's been couch surfing for his whole senior year. From family member to family member. He doesn't have his parents in his life because they have some challenges. But he was here. We made sure that he got all the way hooked up. Like, I think there were 20 students got brand new laptops. 12 students got book scholarships. So the students, we just really wanted to do our best to try to support them because maybe they don't have biological family. But once you sign on a dotted line, you are now part of the HBCU family. And that family is strong, and we are resourceful, and we are here to make sure that our students not only get to, but get through our universities and graduate and become successful parts of our community and give back themselves.
Right. That's so important. I have chills. I'm looking at the Central State Dayton campus in the background, and girl, we had plenty of racial justice now have plenty of meetings over there, our community meetings. And it's always been a beacon of community pride, over there. And I like I said, I went to a PWI, but I certainly think back now, I was like, I really wish I, had people in my ear, like, why don't you, go to an HBCU? But I am encouraging my children to attend an HBCU. And there's so many choices here in the DMV region now. And Morgan State, of course, it doesn't get the same kind of accolades as a Howard, but it's their Coppin State is also in Baltimore. So, and the other good thing, we have Bowie State University. There's a bunch of them here in Maryland, in the DC region. And one of the things that I'm excited about, at least for the Maryland HBCUs, is that they finally got the funding that they deserved. And I know that had been an issue for Central State, fighting with the state of Ohio, because Wright State University should not have been built because it was too close to Central State.
They're in the same county. You're not supposed to have state schools in the same county. Yeah, exactly. It was open with the thought of closing Central State. I mean, even I learned recently, my facts may be a little off, like even the School of Medicine, that was supposed to belong to Central State. The Wright State School of Medicine was supposed to belong to Central State, but with everything that happened with the tornado, the focus got shifted. And that's why the Wright State School of Medicine was built instead of that School of Medicine being built at Central State. But we still here, we are still strong, and we are only getting stronger.
I appreciate that. And appreciate all the work that you've been doing in the community. So now, since we have kind of like introduced this conversation around PWI versus HBCU, that is always a subject of discussion. It's even now, like with the two celebrity faculty that'll be joining Howard. And for people who don't know, I'm talking about Nicole Hannah-Jones and Tanisha Coates. Tanisha Coates actually comes from a Black activist family. His father, Paul Coates, is in Baltimore. I had the opportunity to meet him. He's actually a publisher and publishes a lot of works of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. He published her book. He published Anthony Browder's book. So, like, when you think of like the Black conscious community, that is sort of what Tanisha kind of was born out of, for people who didn't know that. But I wanted to talk about this issue of HBCUs for Black students in particular, as opposed to PWIs. We see the public humiliation from the University of North Carolina, I believe at Chapel Hill with Nicole Hannah-Jones. And we also have this debate amongst ourselves, right, Angie? Like we, when we think about like, okay, well, we're going to encourage our child to go to Harvard or Howard. You know what I mean? Just, I know you ready to go in on this, girl. Like, so seriously, like, I really want you to talk about this because you clearly have a lot of knowledge on this issue as someone who attended an HBCU, but I also know you have people in your circle, in your family who also attended PWIs. Can you just share a little bit of your experience and your thoughts about this huge gulf that we talk about, the racism that exists, on PWI campuses, among other things, versus that nurturing experience that you receive at an HBCU?
And so you just said it. There is racism. I remember being in high school, and my cousin went to that big school in Ohio, in Columbus. And I remember, like, it was late 80s, and he had gotten into a fight with the skinheads. And I said, "Oh, I will never. Like, I'm already in the country right now. That's not going to be my experience away from home." So I knew I wanted to attend an HBCU. But Zakia, education is it's just like everything else. We have been indoctrinated to believe that the white man's ice is colder. And that translates into education as well. I will never forget, I had a young lady tell me, I was talking to some students at my church about, going to Central State or Wilberforce. And she was like, "Well, you're not going to get a good job if you go to one of those schools." And she went to one of the, PWIs here in the Dayton area. "You're not going to get a good job if you go to one of those schools, if you go to HBCU." And I had to remind her, I said, "Oh, so you're a teacher with Dayton Public Schools?" "Yeah." "You're the principal in your building?" "He's an HBCU Central State graduate." The curriculum director for Dayton Public Schools, she's an HBCU graduate. And at the time, Lori Ward, the superintendent of Dayton Public Schools, is an HBCU graduate. So you're telling these students that they can't get a good job if they go to an HBCU, but 3 people higher than you on the org chart at your job are from HBCUs. So I shuts it down. So please stop telling our children that you can't get good jobs if you attend an HBCU. I mean, and the statistics don't lie. HBCUs overperform PWIs when it comes to a lot of careers, when it comes to our lawyers, our doctors, our people working in STEM. Because guess what? 2 + 2 = 4. It's going to equal that whether you at an HBCU or a PWI, but it's about what you get poured into at those HBCUs that prepare you for the world, that empower you to believe that you can do, where those other schools will beat you down and tell you that you cannot. My sister, she had an experience at Wright State in her doctorate program where they were having study groups, and she found out that some of the students were having study groups, and she asked about it. They were like, "Oh, this is just for the hard workers. We only wanted the hard workers."
Wow. Didn't even invite her.
She found out about it by accident and asked them. And they were like, "Oh no, this is just for the hard workers." That was her experience. And she had come out of Wilberforce University. So had she come out of somewhere else, she would have been just crushed. But because she came out of Wilberforce and she knew who she was, and she had been taught that she was excellent and that they weren't better than her just because their skin was lighter, she brushed that off, and it just pushed her to go harder. She graduated before any of them. And she's an amazing success story in psychology. So being able to be poured into and be strengthened at these HBCUs is what's important. That's why we overperform for doctors, lawyers, and in these STEM jobs, because again, 2 + 2 is going to equal 4, whether you taught it at a PWI or whether they teach it to you at an HBCU. It's those experiences outside of the classroom. It's those professors who are pouring into you, who telling you, who looking at you, telling you that you can and that you better do it. Do this because you owe it to our ancestors. When you see it, you can be it. And that's what happens. Right. And even at HBCUs, I tell people, not all your professors are Black. Not all of my professors. I had international professors. I had white professors. But the difference is those professors were used to teaching African Americans. They understand the culture of the HBCU. And those that come on and they don't understand the culture can quickly be boosted out of there, because you're not going to come in here and talk down and look at our students as though they're less than.
That's exactly right. And I appreciate our brother, Dr. Travis, is in the comments, giving his experience as well versus PWI versus HBCU. That I actually have heard some of the same things that individual, I guess she was a teacher. That's a definitely a horrible position for her to be in, and saying that to students that you can't get a good job if you go to one of those schools. I remember even having the debates between Central State, because Central State has an education department that turns out a lot of teachers. Mm-hmm. And I remember how more funding and more support would always go to UD's, University of Dayton's education, and no one would, and I remember thinking to myself, even back then, like, why doesn't Dayton Public Schools have a direct connection? Yep. Exactly. For teachers, because even in Dayton, majority of the teachers are white.
Right. And in the school system. Right. The majority of the teachers are white, but the tide is changing a little bit. The majority of the teachers are white, but the majority of the Black teachers come out of HBCUs. That's what's interesting. The majority are white, but those that are Black, you look at your principals right now, several of your principals in Dayton Public Schools came out of HBCU. Several of them came out of Central State University. So there definitely needs to be a shift in our belief system, but I believe there is I promise you, there is a shift. People get it now. They understand that HBCUs are powerful, whether it was, because of what's happened in the White House and the positions that our people are in now, but there is a shift. And even those Black folks who thought that the white man's ISIS was colder, even them, I've seen some of them say, those same people that said you can't get a good job are like, man, I wish I would have went to a HBCU. There's so many. I heard that so many times over the past. I'm one of them. But you've never put down. I'm talking about people that put down HBCUs are now saying they wish they would have gone. Right. They're saying that now because of the family environment and the support and when I tell you it's real. I had an alum, my Madam President. I'm going to shout her out, Kalila Forte, president of the Greater.
Yes, I know her. She was a teacher in Trotwood, right?
She was a teacher in Trotwood, and she's now the president. I'm the vice president of our alumni chapter. When I tell you today, she was texting me because she was up on that campus at 10 o'clock last night because there's a young person who needed, doesn't have necessarily that family support. And she was in there stocking his shelves in his room, a student from Trotwood. You know what I'm saying? She was collecting funds on Facebook like, hey, I want to set his dorm room out 10 o'clock at night. That's where she was. Putting soap on the shelves, putting towels in it. It's love because, guess what? She knows that he needs that love and that nurturing, and she knows that he's going to get it at Central State University. She knows she's going to be able to hand that baby off on that campus, and that there are going to be people there that are going to support him and nurture him into greatness. This baby has a bed now. He didn't have a bed his whole senior year.
Wow.
He's got a bed at Central State. I have a young lady that I was mentoring that I met by chance at Central, who literally came out of one of the homeless shelters and came to Central State because she needed a bed. Do you know she has graduated with a 3.9 GPA? She went on to grad school, graduated with like a 3.8. But she couldn't have gone anywhere else and received that nurturing that she needed to know that she can flourish. Once she got that foundation of, okay, now I got a bed. Now I know I got a place that I can go, that I can eat. And now Central State poured into her, and there was greatness in her that she didn't even know she had because she had been in survival mode.
It was nurtured out. It was pulled out.
It was nurtured out. She had been in survival mode her whole life, but she came to Central State, and we said, we don't care that you was homeless. We don't care that you don't got this and that. You part of us now, and we got you. Do you know about a month or so ago, that same young lady, I was collecting funds for this free pantry on campus, cash at me $100, and I started crying.
Wow. Just to say thank you.
To say thank you, to say here's money for that pantry, because I was one of those students who needed to go in there because I didn't have mom and them sending me money or care packages. The care packages that she got were walking into that student pantry that is funded by the alumni to make sure they got deodorant, they got socks, they got hair care products, they got snacks. Because we know as alumni, there are students who will drop out of school because they don't have that family support, because you can get, full funding if you're, poor enough or whatever, you can get the funding, but nobody's sending you deodorant. Nobody's sending you laundry detergent, quarters to wash your clothes. You kind of fending for yourself.
Right.
And food. Food for after hours. You're fending for yourself. But we got this closet set up on the campus at Central State. We opened it about 3 years ago that's called, the Emerging Scholars Pantry, just for those students who don't have family support. And they can go in there and get the stuff that they need. And it keeps our students from feeling like, I got to go work. From dropping out, because you will drop out because you don't have,
because you got to go to work. Yeah,
because you got to go to work. You think, I don't have money for sanitary napkins, like something as basic as I don't have money for that.
Yeah,
will make you drop out of school because you feel like you got to go work just to get your basic life essentials. So we're trying to take care of our students to make sure that they have what they need, because some of our students are coming where their grandparents went to college. But some of our students are coming where their parents never made it out of elementary school. So the diversity that you have at an HBCU campus, but nobody feels left out. Nobody feels less than because their parents didn't have. Whether your parents are your third generation college graduate, or you're the first person in your family to graduate from high school, you fit in at an HBCU.
Right. What would be, this has been such an enlightening conversation, and I appreciate you for being here to do that. What would be, if you had to talk to a group of students, that's graduating seniors this year, what would you say to them as far as encouraging them in terms of school choice or college choice? What would you say?
I would let them know that there are 107 HBCUs in this country. They've got your majors. They've got the environment that you want, whether you want small, middle, or large size campuses. There are 107 HBCUs in this country. Mm-hmm. Pick one. That's what I would say to the students. Don't just go. Right. Pick one. Don't just go where you're educated. Go where you will be celebrated.
Right.
Go where you will be celebrated, because you will be celebrated at an HBCU. And like I said, there are, one of my friends, she calls herself, she said she got to Central State and there was a student ambassadors, and she was like, wow, they're the fun nerds. And you find every little, however you are, whether you're a fun nerd or whether you're the super scholar, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an activist, you see yourself. You become yourself because you see yourself. You don't have to wait till, you don't have to wait till there's a Black student union event to see another Black person. I know students who went to large PWIs and said they might see a Black person once a week and be so happy. No, you're going to see yourself every single day. And again, 2 + 2 = 4 on either campus. But there's so much more to that education than just what's in those books. And you got to be careful what books your school has. You know what I'm saying? There's some books out there that ain't teaching no truth.
Exactly.
So you need to go somewhere where you're going to be celebrated, where you can grow, and where you're going to be encouraged, not where your light is going to be dimmed. So I tell students all the time, going to an HBCU was the best decision I've ever made in my life. I had a 4.0 coming out of high school, class valedictorian. My, PSAT scores and ACT scores were really high. I was getting mail from every single Ivy League school in the country, because once you score really high, you end up in the database, right? And so now you're in the database. I was in the database. I was getting mail from every school in the country because I was in the database. I was a Black girl in the database. And I could have chosen anywhere I wanted to go. I could have gotten academics. I chose Central State University, and I have zero regrets. There's nothing that anybody could tell me that any other school could have educated me better than what I got at Central State University. Because guess what? Your education is what you put into it anyways. You got to get up and go to class.
That's right.
You got to turn your papers in. You have to do your homework. And there are depending on the size of your HBCU, you've got professors that will come and knock on your door.
Wow.
And say, where you been? I've seen professors call somebody mama. She ain't coming to class. You know what I'm saying?
Girl, what we doing?
Right. Oh, that's we doing that. I've seen professors call people mama, like where she's not coming to class, because it's a family environment.
Right.
Family. My mother, when I came to Central State my freshman year, we had a house director. She was an older woman. My mom was like, oh, I want that job. I want to be a house mother. I'm like, Mom, it's not a house mother. It is a dorm director. It's the dorm director. Like, it's not no house mother. Do you know, I graduated years later. Next thing I know, I'm way out of school. My mother applying for a job at Central State all the way from Lima. And she became a house mother. When I tell you she mothered them kids, those were her babies. She mothered them. When somebody got hurt or was sick, I'm calling her. I'm at the hospital with one of my students. I'm about to get a call his mom. I'll call you back. I mean, that's what you get. She went to the hospital with those kids. If somebody was sick or somebody was hurt, she was a house mother for 5 years at Central State. And guess what? She didn't stand out. She was the norm. That's how it is. You have people on those campuses who love their students. It's the same at Wilberforce. And I can't speak for the bigger institutions, but those small and medium-sized HBCUs, you get that type of love because they want you to succeed. They look at you as their children. Most of those people that are on those campuses, especially in certain positions, Sonia Hunt, shout out to Sonia Hunt, who's over social services and mental health services at Central State. It's her ministry. She's at Central State, not as she said, this is her ministry to work with these young people. And she's over health services. And I'll throw out this statistic. She said that students that receive mental health services, at least at Central State, are 75% more likely to stay in school and graduate.
Wow.
They understand that you have to deal with the whole student.
The whole person.
Yes. You got to deal with the whole person.
It's a holistic approach. Yeah.
It's a holistic approach.
Girl, and so that's amazing. That's actually powerful. I did not know that they had like staff at Central State to deal with the mental. Wow.
Yes, there's a whole there's a whole room. Like it used to be, I don't know, a big closet. I went in there and they got a whole chair and they got the waterfall with the thing and the music, like just like if somebody stressed out,
meditation,
it's like a meditation room. I'm like, what, y'all got a meditation room? You know what I'm saying? So they're dealing with the whole student, and they know that the students that are receiving those services are more likely to graduate.
Girl, this is one of the best pitches I've ever heard. And I'm not just saying it because you're sitting here, but seriously, that's why I asked you, because this video is going to live on. There will be people who will watch this later. And to me, that was the best pitch for a young Black student to attend an HBCU. Now I got to tell a little story of my own. Okay. My husband, when we were traveling, so I grew up in Alabama, but I graduated high school in Dayton. So every year we always take a trip to Alabama, and it's usually around Thanksgiving. My family get together at our family house down in Selma, and we drove. My husband was like, we have to go to Tuskegee. He was like, I have been reading Booker T. Washington. I have a lot of I just want to see the campus. And we drove up there, and he had already did the research, right? He was like, this is where Amir is going. Amir is my son. He was like, Amir loves animals. He's into science. He's into all of that. I did not know that Tuskegee had one of the best veterinary science programs in the country. I did not know that. And my husband had already caught people. I was like, what's the tuition? But that's the other thing. We can talk about the money part too, because one of the things that I have heard some students say, well, I don't have money, and the PWI is offering more. Sometimes HBCUs can't offer the same amount of coverage or scholarship because they ain't got them multi-billion-dollar endowments.
Like, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That these the white universities have. And so I have heard that as one critique, being able to attend an HBCU where you can get that nurturing and all of that. The other thing is, I believe Tuskegee, like Wilberforce, is a private institution. Mm-hmm. So they don't have like access to the same level, I would say, of state funding and even federal funding as some of the state schools like Central State and in Alabama. Alabama State is also a state school. So I wanted to tell my little story with that, because I was like, okay, we got 5 more years. Let me see what this cost is or whatever. But I mean, to me, I guess I thought, well, the HBCUs, they cover the basics, but the fact that we have veterinarians, Black veterinarians coming out, they turn out the most Black veterinarians in this country.
Yep.
Right there at Tuskegee.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. There are 107. Pick one. Whatever you wanted to major in, there is an HBCU that is exceeding in that major. So that's just what it is. There are HBCUs that are exceeding in that. So pick one. Yeah. So absolutely. So I'm not surprised. So when you talk about the cost, and I've heard that too. I've heard people say, well, I wish I wanted to go to Central, but Wright State offered me all this money. And that's what they've done. You know what I'm saying? We talk about that. The imbalance of money and wealth. They try to pick off our best and our brightest. But I've seen also some of our best and our brightest not do well, because they'll pick us off, but they don't care about you once they got you. They got you as a number. They're padding their stats. And they pat you on the head. See, we got a couple in here. And so we've got to be careful of that. And like you said, you got 5 years. There's all kinds of scholarships. There's money out there. We had McDonald's as one of our sponsors for the event. McDonald's said, you work for the summer at McDonald's, and we're going to not only want to pay you, but we're going to give you a $2,500 scholarship.
Chick-fil-A does that too, I heard. for their students, because they have a lot of high school students that work in the restaurants. They give out scholarships to a lot of the graduating seniors. That's good. That at least some of the fast food chains are doing that.
So the thing is, if your child really wants to attend an HBCU,
you can make it happen.
You can make it happen. There are ways to make it happen. Their money is out there, and and so like I said, there is a difference between the public and the private, but there are ways to make it happen. We have 107. There's one to fit your budget. There's one that has the scholarships that you need. There are ones that have your major. There are ones they're the right size for your student. Everybody's not going to do well at a Howard. And some people are going to get out of Wilberforce and say, "Oh, this is too small." Some people, are going to get out of Wilberforce
and be like, "This is it right here. I'm comfortable." Because this is in the middle of the fields, right? The cows and everything out there.
I'm in the middle of the cornfields, but you know what? I've been hearing sirens and lights my whole life.
Exactly.
I'm happy to be in the cornfield. There was a lady from Detroit. She was so surprised that her daughter wanted to go to Wilberforce because she's coming out of one of the big high schools in the D, right? But she said her daughter got to Wilberforce and is flourishing. Is doing wonderful, loves Wilberforce University. She's like, my daughter's high school was bigger than Wilberforce as far as enrollment. She was like, but she loves Wilberforce. This is where she belongs. And she's like, I see her maturing so much because there's opportunities for leadership. When you go to schools like Central State and Wilberforce, you get, opportunities for leadership. I've seen young men, or young men and young women, get in student government. You wouldn't have been able to do that at one of these big PWIs. You would have just went to class and went back to your room, but the opportunities for leadership are amazing. And those leadership opportunities prepare you for the world. They get you ready to do events. And I mean, I don't think I would be able to do half the stuff I've done, in Dayton, a little bit of community service work, but I was empowered and I got that my training wheels at Central State, being able to say, man, we want to have a play at Central, where the drama department at the time wasn't really strong, but we want to have a play. Let's do it ourselves. Let's walk through some requisition forms, talk to an advisor and help her walk us through how we can do it ourselves and put on a student play. And we did it, So when I look at the plays I do now here in Dayton, I got my start in the Black church doing plays, but I was acting then, but at Central State, when it was where I learned we can put them on ourselves. And so I've been doing this. Yeah. And at a PWI, I would never have had the opportunity to put on a play myself. But at Central State, the advisor said, okay, write down your plan and I'll help walk you through it. And we did just that. And we did several before I graduated. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that I actually thought that you got your training through the church. I didn't know the history of you actually got the training while you were a student at Central State, because you put on some top-notch plays. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I mean, it's so professional. I was like, you need to win whatever award they give people that be putting on these plays, because it really is. And then the nurturing that you give to the young people that you're working with, like the kids that are a part of the plays and stuff like that. I used to look forward to what you were doing for Black History Month at your church.
Thank you. I did get my start in the church. So I got my start acting in the church. We had a whole drama ministry at my church. So I got my start acting, but actually being able to start writing. To start writing and actually putting them on myself. That came from Central State. Yes. Being empowered, like Central State lets you know, what do you want to do? Do it, go for it. And that's what you get. What do you want to do? Go for it.
Yeah. Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I appreciate you spending time with me today. I hope folks who are watching, again, like the video, share it. If you know young people who are about to graduate this year or maybe even next year, my sister put on a whole clinic on why they should choose an HBCU. So, and I saw you wanted to say something.
Yeah, there's something that I have to say, because it's something that I learned in doing some research for one of my Black history. When you can look up a lady, her name is Dr. Inez Prosser. She is the first African-American woman to receive her doctorate degree in psychology. Dr. Inez, I think in 1895, Dr. Inez Prosser, she received her doctorate degree in psychology, and her whole focus when she was getting her doctorate was that Black students needed to be educated by Black people.
Ooh.
From a psychological.
They don't look that name up too much no more.
No, she's black.
But it's the truth. Like those of us who want to admit the truth, it's the truth.
It's the truth. She said black students need to be educated by black people. And she said the psychological, the mental challenges our students face when they are educated by people who don't look like them, who don't care about them, and who think less of them, is the psychological impact is extremely damaging. She was the first black woman to get her to study the black person's mind.
Yeah.
To get a degree in it, said black kids need to be educated by black people in black spaces. And so, and it's interesting because they used her words and her thesis against Brown versus Topeka Board of Education.
Exactly.
Topeka Board of Education.
For lifting that up. I try to tell people all the time, there was just as many black folks who didn't want to integrate with these white folks, especially in schools, as the ones that they lift up in history. Like her name has pretty much been buried.
Her name has been buried, but Topeka Board of Education said, even this black woman said, black kids should, because you're sending our babies somewhere where they're hated. How are you going to educate me and you hate me? Exactly. You're educating me. You're teaching me to hate myself. And so we have black people out there
who explains so much.
You have black people out here who are against HBCUs because they hate themselves, because we've been taught to hate ourselves. We've been taught that black people were better off when they were slaves because at least they had some food and somewhere to live. We've been taught that black people, are less than, and that the white man's ice is colder. We were taught that we were only slaves, and that's where our history began. And when you believe that, you don't feel like you can do or achieve. But Dr. Inez Prosser says, no, our black babies need to be educated in black spaces by black faces. And that just doesn't count when we're talking about elementary. That extends into higher education as well, because that's when you're really becoming who you are going to be, is when you are away from mom and them, and now you have the freedom to think and to grow on your own. And it's very important that you're the water that is being poured into your roots at that time is very fertile into fertile grounds. And if you're doing that at a school that doesn't believe in you, where you have your peers around you that says, we only want the hard workers, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to flourish. So I say to anybody, you can get a good education at a PWI. If that's what's comfortable for you, go for it. But I challenge everybody to take a look at the HBCUs in your area and beyond. At least give it a try, at least, because not everybody's going to fit into all spaces. But don't go to a PWI because you think it's better, because it's not. Your chances of graduating from college as a black person are higher if you're attending an HBCU.
HBCU. Now that's fact.
That's facts. Your chances of graduating are better at an HBCU. Black HBCUs graduate black folks at a higher rate than PWIs. And that's what you have to know. The nurturing is there. You can get there and mess up. I'm not going to act like, everybody goes to HBCU is perfect. You can get there and mess up, but the ground is fertile. You know what I'm saying? The ground is fertile, and it's up to you to plant yourself there and grow.
I feel like we can't get off this broadcast without telling people, because I've done this. So in Ohio, I used to have a Central State University tag for my license plate. But the money that you pay for the license plate goes to the school as a donation. Mm-hmm. So that was my way of financially supporting Central State University, even though I never attended. I wanted to, even back then, before I was so-called conscious and all that, I wanted to, that was my contribution to support the school. A little bit of something. So everybody on here, even if you went to a PWI, you can still financially support an HBCU. Absolutely. Because pouring into another student or another child who can attend an HBCU and is more likely to get some support from that HBCU. So I want to encourage everybody, even if you're an alumni, y'all know y'all supposed to be writing checks to them schools.
Write them checks. And the thing is, especially with Central State, you can what is it called? Earmark your money. If you're like, well, I want to give to the band, or I want to give to the choir, or I want to give to the country. You can earmark your funds. And, I tell people, the HBCUs are like the black family. You ain't got to be blood to be kin. You know what I'm saying? Everybody you call cousin ain't really your blood, right?
Everybody we be doing that.
And HBCUs are like that too. I tell people, if you want to be a part of the Central State University family, we welcome you. It's only $25 to be a part of the Alumni Association as an associate member, which means you never really went there, but you're a part of the family. And that money goes directly to our scholarships, and you get on board and you help us with these fundraisers, you help us with these events, you help us with student support. We had a lady that worked at the event There were several people that came as volunteers that did not go to HBCUs, but guess what? They are part of the HBCU family because again, everybody that's kin ain't necessarily blood. So come on in and be a part of this HBCU family. We welcome you.
Right. So where can people find you? Because people are been excited in the chat. Where can people find you and how, because you are a part of the vice president of the alumni chapter for Central State. Number one, where can people find you and how can people donate to support the work?
Okay, so people, so that's a loaded question. So I'm Angie Monfort Davis on Facebook, ANGEE Monfort Davis. You can find me. We'll tag me in this. So that's where you can find me. Yes, I am the vice president of the Greater Dayton Alumni Chapter. www.gdac.com, and then you can go there and you can donate on a link there, and the funds will go towards our scholarship program. If you want to donate towards the Emerging Scholars Pantry, which is the pantry that I was able, me and my line sisters, shout out to the ladies at Delta Sigma Theta. We put that as a part of our 25th anniversary. We opened up a pantry, and alumni have done nothing but poured into that pantry for those students who come to college, either aging out of foster care or who come completely independent. We have students coming straight from Daybreak Homeless Shelter onto our campus.
I remember Daybreak,
who are graduating and doing amazing work, and we are supporting those students. So if you want to support those students, you can contact me directly because we're not, I'm not a 501c3 or anything like that, but those dollars you send to me go directly into that pantry for those students.
Say the website one more time so we can put it in the comments.
It is www.gdac.com, gdac.com. It's Greater Dayton Alumni Chapter, $25.
Okay, put it in the comments so people can go right to it and make a donation to support students at Central State University. Thank you, Angie. Sis, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so much. You have given so much back to the community in more ways than one. We definitely have to have you back. Maybe next time you come back will be before the actual HBCU send-off, and we can help promote it.
Absolutely, because I promise you, I met somebody today that had, I ain't gonna say what business he's with, but he handed me a card because he handles the marketing funds, and he was like, I want to write you a check next year. So I'm like, look at God. So yes, so the funds are pouring in. We are supporting our students, getting them to and through our HBCUs. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. Keep doing the work that you're doing. Keep using our voices and spreading our voices, our words, and our way, because the community needs you, Zakia. You be out here like, you know what I'm saying, kicking butt, taking names. You be chopping off heads, kicking them down the street.
But you know what? Can we talk about that real quick? I remember you would hit me up out of love and be like, girl, I feel you, but you gonna have to be a little bit softer with our people. You be chopping people's heads off too quick. And at that time, this was years ago, but I have now come into that. But at that time, I wasn't ready to hear that, because in my mind, I was like, we are in an emergency. Ain't nobody got time to be playing with these people.
But you got to know the people got to know you love them before they want to listen. You got to love them before they listen to you. And that's what you got to know, because you are passionate. And a lot of what you said was right, but you can't be telling people how stupid they are and then think their ears going to still be open to you. You can't say, you big dummies.
I actually never said that like that, but I feel
not like that, but in so many ways, you used to be like, y'all so stupid.
People interpret it.
That's how it's interpreted. Like, y'all so daggone stupid, and then they not listening no more. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure their ears are open to hear the words, because you had too much to say for people to not be listening, but you were so passionate.
In the process, definitely.
You got to understand. You have to understand where people are, where they're coming from, because we have been indoctrinated to hate us. We have been indoctrinated to believe that they are better than us. And that was
my frustration. Is like, so like my indoctrination wore off, right? But I was frustrated because all of the people around me was still like indoctrinated. I just like,
like shake them, like knock it out. Get it. You gotta listen. I get it. But they gotta know you love them first. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that's indoctrinating them, because you gotta think about it. The people that are indoctrinating them are doing them like this. They patting them, they doing them like this,
right?
And they feeding them, they giving them some nice little, they doing this, and you on the other side screaming. They just gonna continue to go to the people that's petting on them, you know?
Wow, yeah, and not even seeing that as even a tool of oppression in and of itself. Woo, yeah, girl, you definitely coming back. I appreciate you so much. I don't know why it took me this long to make sure I have somebody on from Dayton, but you will
Come
definitely
on, come on.
Yeah.
You turned your back on Zakia, turned her back on Dayton.
Not turned my back on my people. I love y'all. I stay in touch, and y'all know I still got family there. I've been back to Dayton several times, and I will always come back. Both of my children were born in Dayton, so yeah, Dayton will always have a place in my heart. So,
all right.
Thanks, Angie. We will see you next time. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Make sure you like and share this video, and join us next week, same place, same time.